extracts from the recording of the President's address.
The atmosphere, the climate, the climate for scientific research, for study, is congenial in a free society. I accept that. I accept that, and I say that to you, that I am determined to restore democracy. I am determined to end the suffocation, put an end to this kind of state of affairs where civility prevails. But like you, I think I also have a scientific mind. I don't want to take ad hoc, incomprehensible decisions because we've suffered so much on their account. I want to move step by step, solidly, in such a fashion that we can channelize, streamline people's energies, and then to restore democracy in such a way that no adventurer will again dare to bring about dictatorship in Pakistan. Matthew Arnold had once said, ignorant armies clash by night, and in Pakistan, ignorant generals ruled by day. They must do their job, and we must do our job. And everyone has to do his own job. That's how society can really flourish. That's how we can progress. And that's how we can move ahead. We've seen how we have suffered on account of doing the wrong thing. So believe me, you wait a little and you see how we will move forward to a democratic order under a rule of law where none of you feel that there is uncertainty and that you are subjected to any arbitrary actions and decisions of any authority. But the task is colossal because what I have inherited are very tiny little pieces, as I keep saying, and the mosaic has to be remade, and it can't be done in a day. The field is so comprehensive because, as you said, you can't progress in science in isolation. Administration, economy, industry, agriculture, education, all these matters. You complain about the way the young students are taking over the colleges and universities and moving towards a kind of a planned anarchy. But I understand it. This is a problem. It's agitating my mind very much because unless we educate our younger generation properly, we cannot really fulfill the great tasks that we want to fulfill for our country. I know it's been said that there must be a quantitative change before there's a qualitative change. But how long are we going to have this quantitative change? 24 years have passed. And I don't see the qualitative change coming up. We have for the last 24 years, or I accepted that more people have to be educated, more people have to be made literate, therefore standards will fall initially. But even if you accept that, I think by now they should have been the standards should have been picking up a little, but that's not happening. It's a connected problem. The teacher blames it on the university, the student blames it on the teacher and the student blame it on the economy, on the backwardness, and on the government blames it on them. But again, this problem has been mishandled. I keep telling my friends in the government and in my party that in my opinion, in the first 10 to 15 years, Pakistan was perhaps the easiest country to rule or to govern. People didn't want any, they were satisfied with almost anything. Vague slogans, we're all Muslims, Islam will sustain us. And there were no pressure groups. Labor was maltreated, the worst conditions. They were not organized, they didn't protest. Field of agriculture, the conditions of the peasants were miserable. Yet there was not organized protest or revolt everywhere. And today Pakistan has become one of the most difficult countries in the world to rule. So it's a question of confidence, it's a question of trust. People have become suspicious of one another. We have to keep repeating that we will restore democracy. Yet people think that democracy will not be restored because they've been told so many lies in the past. And I don't want this credibility gap. I don't want people to mistrust and disbelieve government. Because they must believe the government, they must trust the government if the government is interested in the people. It all is a question of objectives. Does an individual want to serve society, his people, or does he want to perpetuate himself? And perpetuation really is a misnomer. You cannot perpetuate. We've seen in our own country what has had happened to those who selfishly wanted to perpetuate them. So the question of the student problem will have to be tackled, but will have to be tackled with patience. Because we've used force capriciously. Wantonly we've used force. On ourselves, we've whiplashed our people. And in the end, the country got whiplashed. Because if you whiplash your people, then naturally, finally, the state will get whiplashed. So I'm aware of these problems. They are causing problems. We have taken many measures of reform in the field of industry. We've taken many more in the field of labor. But yet, there is discontent. People are not settling down. Slowly they're settling down. I wouldn't say they're not. They're settling down. In Karachi, there were many gheraos of factories in site area. There were people, trigger-happy people, who said, well, now we must use force. I said, no, we won't use force. We'll give a very long rope. I want condemnation by the people. And I tell this to those who are trying to now run amok in the university. That, all right, you are our children. I'm not going to use force. Take over the university. In Hyderabad, the Liaquat Medical College, the students made a preposterous demand that without sitting for the examinations, all of them must pass. And, well, that's a big deception. Isn't it a deception? Those who want to do that, they're deceiving themselves. They'll only have a label, but they'll finally become peons and clerks, if not less. So I'm going to tell you on that also what my thinking is. But the question is, they wanted all of them to be passed without sitting for the examination. Now, in any case, you can't do that as a matter of principle, but especially in a professional field, where these people will go and become doctors. They'll treat people, they'll treat your children, they'll treat my children. They will have great responsibility. And if they're incompetent, they have not really met the test. They will have lives of people in their hands. And a ignorant, illiterate murderer is much worse than committing a murder of that kind. So I couldn't be a party to that. There comes a time when you just say, stop. Well, no. I said, all right, take over the college. Take it over. Do what you like with it. Break it down. Demolish it. An Indian bomb could have done it. You do it. All right, but I won't concede to the demand. So that the people will see that your demand is unreasonable. And once the people have given me authority to act, then I will act. And I will get that authority from the people. I'm not going to permit planned anarchy. I'm not a person who will subject my nation to blackmail, or to my people to blackmail, or to the ordinary man to suffer. The difference is this, that those previous regimes, where they use force against the people and their interests. If ever, God forbid, I have to be called upon to use force, I'll use force in the interest of the people, in the interest of society. So I am giving them a very long rope, everyone. But the people are watching at the same time. What we are trying to do, efforts we are making, and the efforts to frustrate our collective goals. And then, finally, I'm a man of the people. I'll go and address 100,000, 200,000 people to that place itself and say, look, I've given so much time. I've done this. We've done this. This is now the demand. I can't meet this demand. For the following, you agree with me or not? Now, we can't permit chaos to prevail. And with the people's consent, then you see how well we will act. It will be a scaled operation then. And the people will understand it. They'll understand the rationale. They'll support it. So on that basis, we proceed to go, and at the moment, we're walking on eggs, on the raw sentiments of the people. And there is conflict everywhere. There's dichotomy everywhere. You've got to reduce the dichotomy. Accountability and participation are my two efforts to try and rebuild our society and rebuild our country. There has been much said about the work of the Atomic Energy Commission. I'm glad that you got it off your chest. I want everyone to get it off his chest. Not only scientists, but everyone. Everyone has a great deal on his chest. And I was happy to hear your candid remarks. And I welcome them. I go back happier at the conclusion of this meeting. But I have also to announce a few important decisions. And in this connection, it's necessary also for me to give you a little bit of the background. I don't claim to know much about science. I don't claim to know much about science or about other fields, military matters. I don't claim to be a military expert. I'm the defense minister, but I'm not a military expert. Nevertheless, I have thought it my duty to study a great deal on these matters. And it's a good thing that we have, because one has to be equipped in the field of politics, in all fields, have some elementary knowledge. And in the military field, because of our country's situation, because of our problems, because of my sort of interest in politics, I've read a great deal on military science, military questions. But science, not as much as military matters. But nevertheless, I've tried basically to keep abreast with necessary elementary scientific knowledge. And more so in the nuclear field, again for obvious reasons. And it should pain me that countries like India, where there are tremendous professions of peace, But they've been preparing the ground for a nuclear option for a long, long time. And in the 50s, isn't that right, Salam? In the 50s, Nehru goes to Canada with Baba, charms the Canadians, plutonium plant for university purpose. And without safeguards, Baba and Nehru go and swing it, and they get it. And at a time when we didn't, our government, our people, didn't even know what the matter was all about even. I don't know if you, I wasn't here, I think, but if you read the newspapers, I don't think there was any protesting. I don't think that anyone bothered that India had got herself without safeguards in the 50s from a country like Canada, a plutonium plant on the pretext of wanting it for university research. But that was in the 50s. Now in 1967 or 68, I was staggered by the thought that Pakistan had taken the initiative in the United Nations to arrange a non-nuclear conference of non-nuclear states so that they should not become nuclear states. Now, I can't understand the logic behind that. We might not become a nuclear state, but why should we take the initiative to see that the non-nuclear states remain non-nuclear, which means in principle to remain backward? Because after all, the question is not of nuclear bombs. It's not a question of destruction. Nuclear energy is essential to the progress of mankind, to the progress of our people. We need nuclear energy, we need nuclear knowledge and nuclear research in Pakistan, perhaps more than anywhere else. I humbly do not agree with those who think that we should not use nuclear science for agricultural progress. Because 80% of our people live on the land. Our resources are limited. We have water shortages. There is salinity and waterlogging. There are pests. There are insects. We don't have the insecticides. We don't have the pesticides. We don't have sufficient fertilizers. Fertilizers are expensive. So we are deficit. Our population keeps increasing. And don't ever think that industrialization we can attain of that magnitude in a short period of time, which will make us into a second Japan. Take off. There's no such thing as take off. Rostov's theory on take off is a false theory. Which state has taken off? There are technological states, there are nuclear states, there are advanced states, and there are underdeveloped states. Marzel is more right than Rostov. I want to ask Mr. Rostov, which state is it's a fraud, this take-off theory. Either in the field of economics or in the field of technology, you have either taken off and gone ahead or you've been left behind. In our thoughts as well as in our actions. There are people who were preaching during the elections that it's incorrect that the man has gone to the moon. Now, it's all right. There might be some political purpose. I pity them who take up that position. But I pity the people more who believe it. Because we can't have that kind of ignorance in our country. We have to have elementary knowledge going right down to the people, no matter how unorthodox the method is to get to them. Either through television, other means, getting some sort of special method, but we have to have a crash program on these matters. And I want your help even in these questions. So the problem is that as far as nuclear development is concerned, we can't look at it from the limited point of view of attaining in the nuclear weapon. That's not the approach to nuclear science. We cannot have that approach. So then the point is that the world must believe us, and the world knows that we are an extremely poor country and with limited resources. And for the moment, half of our country is under enemy occupation. And not only half of our country is under enemy occupation, but there are other territories which rightly should have belonged to Pakistan, or where a plebiscite should have been held, are also under occupation of foreigners. And that we are a much smaller country. We cannot go by orthodox methods of defending our country, division by division, tank by tank. We have to have the participation of the people. And we have to have a prosperous people. We have to have strong people who have a stake in the land. We have to give them that stake in the land. So the world must believe us when we say that we must prepare for the nuclear option. We must prepare for the nuclear option because we belong to the world in which we want technology, we want progress. Not for the purposes of war, but for the purposes of peace, but the option must be there. So this is a firm and an irrevocable decision that the nation must prepare for the nuclear option. As Minister for Atomic Energy, I was in favor of this approach. I wish that decision had been taken in those days. It's an honorable decision, self-respecting decision commensurate with the largest Islamic country in the world, determined to restore its prestige and honor in the eyes of the world, and in the eyes of its own people. I have made this pledge to the people of Pakistan. As a Muslim, I have made it, as a Pakistani I have made it, and as an Asian I make it, that we must redeem national honor no matter what the sacrifice. So gentlemen, you will have to do the work. I am with you all the way. And whatever resources are needed, we'll try and get them. Inshallah. But now let's get together and remedy them. Let's get together and remedy them. That's the only way we can really go ahead. And I don't think in the field of science there should be much controversy. With an open mind, let's sit together. Wherever the defects have taken place, we can remedy those. Now those buildings have been built. Now there's no use. Architecturally also we are a barren country. You come right up to Tehran and you see some contribution, indigenous, international. When you come to us, you find that it's all imitation, poor imitation, made in poor taste. And then you leave our country, you go to Burma, again you see delicacy of architecture reappearing, Thailand, Philippines, Japan, China, again. But here, there's a blind spot of architecture and of construction. And I intend to hold a conference of architects. And I want them to help us to make a beautiful Pakistan. Tree plantation and gardens will help in the growth of rainfall as well. Why have we had 3 years of drought? Because the trees have been depleted. And we have to have a massive program for tree plantation. Massive. University boys, others. They all must participate. Let's have the money to build those kind of buildings when it's necessary. But we must economize also, because we are a poor country. But beauty does not mean expenditure. Excellence does not mean wasting. So we can, I think, now go ahead and stop the debate on those, the construction of those. Professor Salam also, I've got very great respect for him. He's recognized the world over. If the world recognizes him, why shouldn't we recognize him? He's our man, he's our prophet. He will remain as advisor to the government. We need his advice. But at the same time, because he has to be away, and for reasons which I understand, we are going to set up a ministry for science, technology, and production. We also want to create a scientist pool of 100 scientists to attract Pakistani scientists from abroad. And I'm making an announcement for 10 President's Medals for technological innovation. I would also take steps soon to see that due recognition is given to our scientists, teachers, professors, men of letters, men of learning, in the order of precedence, in state functions, in generally in society, so that our people should recognize their merit, their worth, and their value. With these few words, I'd like to conclude my speech. Thank you very much for the trouble you have.
Earlier, Dr. I.H. Osmani, Chairman, Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission, welcomed the President and other distinguished guests. He said,
Mr. President, sir, distinguished colleagues and friends, may I say what a great privilege and honor it is for me to welcome in our midst for the first time a people's president, a president committed to the ideals of Pakistan, and a president who knows that neither defense nor development of the country is possible except through the massive application of modern science and technology in the different sectors of our national life. It is because he considers nuclear science and technology to be the most potent instrument of change that he has always kept himself in touch with nuclear developments at home and abroad, and both as a minister of the central government in the past and now as a president, he has placed atomic energy personally under his charge. This is how it should be, and this is how it is in most countries of the world. Perhaps it would not be out of place here for me to mention that the two of the biggest projects of the Commission, namely the Pakistan Institute of Nuclear Science and Technology, PINSTEC, where the country's first research reactor started operating in 1965, and the Karachi Nuclear Power Station, where Pakistan's first nuclear power reactor went critical in 1970, were conceived and approved at a time when you, Mr. President, were a minister in the central government in charge of atomic energy affairs. In fact, it was you who laid the foundation stone of PINSTEC and fought for the sanction of CANOP. Today, these two institutions stand as landmarks of Pakistan's entry into the atomic age and as symbols of our determination to harness the energy of the atom for peace, progress, and prosperity. The paper before you gives all the information about the philosophy, the policy, and the program of the Commission which we have followed, the achievements we had made, and the mistakes we had made in a short span of about 10 years, and the program which we envisage for the future. Our greatest achievement, Mr. President, is not the establishment of research and power reactors or the well-equipped laboratories of our centers, but the creation of a pool of talent consisting of more than 550 first-class nuclear scientists and engineers trained up to the master's and the PhD level, trained abroad. What we need in this country is not so much of pure academic science as the application of science in our daily lives. That is, a switch from pure science to a meaningful mixture of science and technology. This change in the thinking of our scientists is gradually coming, and I am glad to say that the Commission has already spearheaded a movement in this direction. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Professor Abdus Salam, scientific advisor to the President, who also addressed the gathering, said,
President, sir, this is one of those very rare occasions in the history of the country that its scientific community has been received, and in so intimate and gracious a fashion, by the President. We deeply appreciate it. Our meeting is significant in three respects today. First of all, for the atomic energy program. Secondly, for science in Pakistan in general, outside of Atomic Energy Commission. This is because a large number of distinguished scientists from fields outside atomic energy are fortunately here with us today and wish to speak about the matters which concern them also. And thirdly, in respect of international aspects of our meeting, whatever our potentialities today and in the future, I'm sure, sir, that you will affirm that Pakistan's interest in nuclear energy is basically for its peaceful applications. In respect of the programs of the Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission, one may be impatient with some of the details of its work, but there is no doubt at all, sir, that under your wise stewardship in its formative years, and with Dr. Usmani's dynamic leadership, the nation can be proud with the overall sweep of its work hitherto. Among its achievements, firstly, there is the creation of the pool of talented scientists, many of whom are here. Secondly is the creation of the Atomic Energy Centers, and thirdly, the power program. One must recognize that in the first 10 years of its life, the Commission has consciously acted as a ministry of science, as in a very broad aspect of its operations, and not just in the narrow field of atomic energy. Mr. President, all of us feel that the time has come to consider amalgamating some of the facilities which the Commission has created with local universities in order that an optimum and comprehensive use may be made of these facilities and the Commission be made to concentrate on the very immediate tasks which it has before it. One of the tasks of today's meeting, Mr. President, will be the consideration of the ways and means of achieving such amalgamations, like creation of joint operating boards for initiating close collaboration between the universities and the establishment of the Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission. But above all, sir, we will be concerned with the role of nuclear energy in the power pattern of Pakistan. As far as power needs are concerned, we must be planning for the next 30 years, and we must plan in such a manner that we achieve with our next nuclear power plant a degree of self-sufficiency. We should see to it that Pakistan is not forced to place its nuclear installations under international control because of dependence on foreign technology and equipment, but does so voluntarily, like any self-respecting nation. The question is, what is it that is needed to achieve this degree of self-reliance? There are three elements in this. One is an intensification of search for nuclear minerals. Second is the ancillary plants which go together with a power plant. These consist of fuel fabrication plants and all other plants to complete the fuel cycle. Finally, there is the heavy water manufacture. The sanctioning of these plants, needed partly for the Kanup reactor and for our future programs, has already been delayed by more than 5 years. And finally, sir, in the designing and manufacturing of these plants, and in particular our next power reactor, we must have maximum participation of our own scientists and our own industry, and try to achieve self-reliance as quickly as possible in accordance with the international objective which I outlined just now of placing our installations voluntarily rather than under any compulsion.
The President, Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, addressed in Multan this morning the Science Conference.
The context of what President Bhutto had said earlier. The President replied,
Well, that will open a controversy. I can give an answer. I understand it. The thing is that one thing that is, I think, helpful is that I understand Sheikh Mujibur Rahman perfectly well, and he understands me well. Whatever we think of each other, that we'll tell each other. But we understand each other. He has got an overwhelming verdict from the people of East Pakistan. I have got an overwhelming verdict from the people of the district. We know how our people think, we know how we think, and whether we agree or not, we will understand why he is taking a certain position and why I am taking a certain position. And our crisis, as I said, did not descend on us like a shooting star. It has been going up and up for the last 24 years, and a whole book can be written on it. We inherited it in a way. However, if I say something on this, I'll really be entering into a controversy. But at the same time, I want you to know that when he was here, after I took over, we did exactly what he wanted us to do. There are certain people who say that we should have allowed them to meet him. I put it to him. I gave him their names. And I can say Mr. Khar was with me, Kamal Hussain was there. And he said that no, he doesn't want to meet anyone. And he said that he simply does not want to meet anyone. All he wants to do is to return as soon as possible to East Pakistan. That was the position. He is there now. He can be asked this question.
Another foreign correspondent asked whether there were any grounds for hoping that links could be retained with East Pakistan, especially when Sheikh Mujibur Rahman had spelt out his posture as the leader of Muslim Bengal.
Give me a little time, and I think I'll be able to explain to everyone's satisfaction why I want some time. And in any case, it is essential that Indian forces must vacate the soil of Muslim Bengal. But here a principle is involved. A principle is involved. I respect the leaders of East Pakistan. I respected all elected leaders. I respect the leaders of the majority party. That's not the point. The question is that as long as foreign troops are on the soil of Muslim Bengal, we cannot be inspired by what is being said or done. The confidence necessary is not to be found. Here Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was in jail, and even after his release from jail, when we put him under custody, I wouldn't call it custody, the Indian government was saying that, oh, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman might say something under duress. Now I said in reply to that is that the respect they have for Sheikh Mujibur Rahman? That what duress could we apply on Sheikh Mujibur Rahman when we were prepared to allow him to go and in any case there was no duress that we applied or could have applied. But nevertheless India said that he is in Pakistan's custody, And therefore we fear that what he says may not be the true reflection of his thoughts. Our case is stronger then in that case. On India's argument, not a reflection on Mujibur Rahman, but taking India's own argument, then our case is much stronger.
Question. Sir, in the context of breaking diplomatic relations with Bulgaria, you stated just now in your opening remarks that you might reluctantly have to repeat the same experience. Now, sir, would you say how many powers, big or small, independent or satellite, do we expect to break relations with? For instance, if Britain and the Soviet Union should choose to recognize Bangladesh, would you snap diplomatic relations with them?
Until we have had this opportunity. And I think we'll have this opportunity soon if India cooperates in vacating her forces. I would expect and I would appeal to the world to wait. And if the world does not give us this opportunity, and some countries in this interim period take this precipitative measure, unwarranted either by the rules of international law or by the existing realities in the subcontinent, then I'm afraid we'll have to break relations. But I want to tell you, I don't want to get into any controversy with the world. It's not our initiative. If they take such an initiative, we will have to consider it.
On a question relating to the changing realities in the subcontinent and possible solutions, President Bhutto replied,
Well, we have asked on the Indians. I've just stated our position, and also we are in touch with other countries. We are in touch indirectly with India on this question. We are in touch indirectly with India on prisoners of war, on the question of vacation of Indian troops from East Pakistan.
And then to a question on the possibility of Pakistan entering into a defense pact with the People's Republic of China, President Bhutto responded,
I'm very glad you asked this question. I thank you for it. Now, those who are demanding that we have defense pacts with certain countries, they should please first examine the principles and the foreign policy postures of those countries. A certain demand is now being made that we should have a defense pact with China. All right. Now, I'm planning to go to China. We still haven't been able to arrange the dates properly, but I'm planning to go soon. I will see to it. I will take Premier Chou En-lai's pen from his hand. I'll take Chairman Mao Zedong's pen, and I'll force them to have a defense pact. The point is, for God's sake, let us be reasonable. It's a defense pact. I can't force a defense pact on certain countries. Their countries must take into account their own interests, their own philosophy, their own political outlook. What is important is that there must be understanding, agreement, confidence between countries that have common interests. And on that basis, we are prepared to pursue our foreign policy. Tomorrow I'll force the United States to give us sophisticated phantoms. I'll say to that, because the resolution is passed by a certain. I can't. You please now, at least after 24 years, let us reflect some mature thinking in our foreign affairs.
Question. Sir, Air Marshal Noor Khan is on record as having said that when he went to China in 1965, there was a suggestion for a defense pact, and he also said that when Mr. Bhutto went to China for talks recently, there was again a suggestion for a defense pact. Is it true, sir?
In the first place, I don't know what Mr. Noor Khan's experience is, but I, as foreign minister or even now, have never discussed the question of defense pact with the People's Republic of China, because I have some knowledge of the foreign policy of the People's Republic of China.
Question. Sir, talking of another former Air Marshal, Asghar Khan, you have perhaps gone through a very extensively reported statement in a Karachi daily in which he has cast very grave aspersions on your desire, and I'm aware of this, that you have made your own position vis-a-vis martial law and your own reform program abundantly clear, but he has cast very grave aspersions on your desire to lift martial law and restore democracy and constitutional rule. How would you react to this?
Well, you see, then he said, if I don't do it, he's going to launch a movement. Now the question is, I know all the roads to all the villages, and I'm prepared to give him the map. He can go and start a movement, because this movement, we know what movements mean. And When you launch a movement on behalf of the people, it's a difficult proposition, but it has chances of succeeding. When you launch a movement against the people's interest, that movement cannot succeed. He's quite welcome to start any movement he likes. He's free to do what he says. He can write anything, he can say anything, he can go anywhere. As I said, we're prepared to give him the map to all the villages because I've been to all the villages. He hasn't yet. So I'll tell him which are the important villages, where people are more politically conscious, where they are not, where they might take him seriously, where they might not take him seriously. We're prepared to do all that. But you will see, I'm telling you, again and again, you will see, when we move ahead, you'll be able to smell it, you'll be able to sense it. Whether we're trying to spin it out, whether we're trying to remain entrenched, and things like that. And time will show you soon.
In the same vein, sir, you have perhaps seen Mr. Wali Khan's statement in which he has demanded full provincial autonomy, and he says further that martial law is not really necessary to carry out reforms.
I've given a full coverage on that point. I've spoken on the subject. That's his opinion. He's entitled to his opinion. But I'm holding the responsibilities today. And I know how awesome those responsibilities are.
Sir, are you expecting or speculating that the India-Pakistan conflict will be discussed in conversations between President Nixon and the Chinese leaders in Peking?
I would think so, because a metamorphosis has taken place in the subcontinent with far-reaching implications to not only our two countries and to the future shape in the subcontinent, but to Asia as a whole. It will have its implications on the policies of the great powers. I am certain that when the future of 500 million people or more is in the balance, the great powers cannot be oblivious of it. I think they have reason to discuss these matters in depth.
Sir, you said you would also be going to Moscow and Washington. Have you any idea of the dates?
Well, you see, I want to not only go to Washington and Moscow, I want to go to one or two other countries. It's necessary for us. I don't know where I can find the time. It's essential, of course. Washington and Moscow are more important. But then there's Cairo, there's Libya, there's Turkey. And if I have to make quick visits of this nature, I think our people will understand it, because we have to again resurrect our image. In the last 9 months, you haven't been abroad. I didn't know how badly damaged it was till I went for this United Nations debate, but it's been badly damaged, and that is not the image the people of Pakistan want to give to the world, because that people of Pakistan are not like that. People of Pakistan are peace-loving people. They have suffered a great deal. They want to progress. They want a progressive Pakistan. They want an enlightened Pakistan. They want to make their contribution to the world, and so it's necessary to put forward our point of view, and especially countries that are important and with whom we have had relations. I would very much like to do all this, but it's again a question of priorities. Sometimes here, these economic matters, India, East Pakistan, constitutional question, prisoners of war, the balance of payments, foreign exchange position, consortium, loans, prices, housing. Too many problems, including your journalist problem. You also made some demands. Now the question is, I'm going to concede those demands, but give me a little time. I have asked the information minister that there have been some demands made by the Punjab Pakistan Union of Journalists. Yes, I haven't seen those. I look into those demands and I will see what we can do. Firstly. Secondly, there's a demand for a removal of repressive laws. Now, if these laws have been brought into being after martial law, I'm prepared to do it tomorrow. But if these laws existed before martial law, then I'll have to have it examined. Because if they existed before martial law, then there must be some background for it. And I can't allow planned anarchy. Especially when I feel that in certain elements there is not the kind of cooperation. I'd like to see that nobody's in jail. I don't like to see any laborer, peasant or student in jail. I would hate to see that. I would hate to see any political leader in jail. But then you see that there must be reciprocity also. Now the question is that some people during the war went away to India. They stayed in India. Now they've come back from India. And if they think that, well, they can come back, they can go to India during the war or before the war when this trouble started and come back, then we have to look into their matter. We just can't allow, as I said, planned anarchy. And but as far as possible, I wouldn't like to touch anyone who's suffered or our people have suffered a lot. I don't want anything of that. I have put some industrialists under detention. I don't even want to do anything much there, but if they don't cooperate, then step by step, they'll have to face the music.
When a newsman pointed out that some people fear that the Indian occupation of East Pakistan might take on the same color as the Indian occupation of Kashmir, President Bhutto said,
No, there's a difference in the situation. And in any case, in any case, I would allow that to be a pretext and to see that there's permanent deadlock and we stay put. I won't allow that to happen. I won't allow things to remain put and think it to be a blessing in disguise for a government. Out of the question. We'll see. Why do you take a pessimistic view? If we mobilize world opinion, as it is, 105 countries have demanded vacation of Indian occupation. Security Council has demanded vacation of Indian occupation. Now the tide is turning in favor of our point of view. The great powers, others. If we also behave sensibly with the great powers and the others, I think then they also will make their contribution. India needs economic assistance from so many places, especially from the United States, other countries. She has to have good relations. There are all factors, and we have to take the fullest advantage, synchronize them, and put it to our benefit. But if all this does not succeed, then of course I'm not going to make it a pretext and say, well, please Indians stay on so that I can continue in this abnormal position. Out of the question.
And then the question began, Sir, you said you had 4,000 acres of land. The President cut it short right there and replied,
I didn't say that. I'm glad you asked this question. I said, how should I know 501,000 acres are the ceiling permitted? My children, my family, my wives rather, we have to take all that into account, and I'll let you know. I can't give you an exact figure. My holding is not that. My individual holding is what is permitted by the land reforms of my individual holding.
A newsman interjected, 1,000 acres, I hope, sir, that's not the ceiling you have in mind for land holdings. President Bhutto said,
No, I said that was the ceiling in my...
Allahu Akbar.
Bangladesh.
La ilaha illallah.
Pose this condition. Now, my reply to it has been that these conditions should not be imposed. Preconditions should not be imposed. Because if we had to have preconditions, then why have negotiations? Did we enter into negotiations with the Soviet Union on the precondition that first we must leave Seato or Cento, or that we should close Baraber and then we should enter into negotiations? No. No country should really impose preconditions of that nature. And if you impose this precondition, then I said there's no point in meeting. Then what's the point in meeting? Because the whole negotiation is on the question of our unity or otherwise. But if you impose the precondition that it should be first accept the conclusion, the Indian conclusion of the negotiations, and then come for talks, then that's futile. We will see that if we are bogged down, then we'll proceed further. It's not a precondition as such, but it is a reasonable expectation.
Leading to what?
Leading to the final settlement in the whole of the subcontinent between our two wings, the new equilibrium and modus vivendi, between India and Pakistan, a new peace built on just equilibrium and a fair increase.
Responding to a question on Pakistan's future foreign policy, the President said,
I've said in the past, foreign policy not cast in a day. I've said so often that it has to grow, it has to flow, it has to take into account people's interests. But our foreign policy's principles are well known. We want good relations with all our neighboring countries. We want good relations with the great powers. We have had a relationship of friendship and confidence with the People's Republic of China, and that I am determined to maintain. Because I don't want to have a relationship of expediency with a great power like China. I would nevertheless think this is not incompatible with our good relations with the Soviet Union. And I want to open a new page of friendship and understanding between the people of the United States and people of Pakistan. I think this to be essential. And you're listening to a former Yankee baiting foreign minister. Let me tell you that it is necessary. And in this war, which we had now, I think the United States took a position on principle, on the rules of international law and morality, and we as an honorable and a self-respecting people must take that into account and reciprocate. And this does not make us into vassals or into satellites or into clients of the United States.
To a question on the condition of the economy, the President caught a newsman on his uncertainty whether he wanted to use the word demonetization or devaluation.
Slight difference. We are not going to make any statements on such subjects, because it used to be a lark to hear the former regime talking and debating on demonetization as well as on devaluation and things. These things are not discussed. You know, these are such subjects that you take certain decisions, but I don't think that any such decision is in the offing, but no more I am going to say on the subject. I don't want the economy to run into speculative trends. My whole object is to now bring back the economy on an even keel, to get it going, to get it into motion, restore confidence, and to bring about a reconciliation. This is my first task. Second task is, if you want to rip it and up all over again, let's do it in the assembly.
Sir, do you have any idea in your mind how long you will take to complete the first phase of reforms?
As I told you, I want to keep my date with the people of Pakistan. I don't want to give dates and go back on them. I want to keep each and every date with the people of Pakistan. When I told a leader of Frontier a month ago, I said, I can't say definitely, but I hope that by the 20th or 25th, sometime there, I'll be able to make some announcement about our first movement towards democracy. I want to keep that date. I want to keep every date, because the people of Pakistan have been deceived too much. Especially in the last 2.5 years, every 4 months, the orchestra used to play. And then we saw something entirely different. The credibility of the nation has to be put on a firm basis. So I can't give you a date and go back on it, but you will hear from me from time to time.
Sir, have you any immediate plans to go to Balochistan?
Yes, I'm going there. Well, generally now, since I've put an end to the colonial practice of announcing beforehand when a person goes, because for the viceroys and the governors of British India, this was understandable. But since independence, it's not right when you go traveling in your own country, when you're going from one part of your country to another, that you should make an announcement beforehand, so all the bureaucrats put the necessary lipstick on the files and things like that, and conceal everything. I want to go pay a surprise visit, go without announcing anything. But since this visit is important, I'll be going there on the 15th.
That was the closing of the question-answer session at the Presidential News Conference.